Good day everyone, Ace here from ACEOFSPACE Astrophotography, and today I'm going to show you how I make my Lunar pictures, how I edit them. So, first thing I've done is I've taken a 10,000 frame video using fire capture, and this video is of the moon, and I took this with my ASI 1600 cool camera, cool, with the red filter. Red filter seems to give a nice picture. I really like it. So here I'll open up the moon video here. Alright, so there's the video. It's a little jumpy. That's because of the atmosphere. Alright, so the first thing I do is I'll open up PIPP. So PIPP is Planetary Imaging Preprocessing. So all I do here is I select lunar close-up, solar lunar close-up, because it's close-up of the moon obviously. Go to File, Add Source File. Okay, don't really need this picture here, so I just close it off. I don't really play around with too many of the settings here. I want to make sure the output is AVI. Select Do Processing. You'll see it says complete, but not really. You have to hit Start Processing at the top here. So it's going to process 10,408 frames I have. Alright, so this takes a few seconds here. So I'm not going to pause my video at all. I'm just going to let you see how long it takes really to process these pictures. Now through this video I'm going to be using PIPP, I'm going to be using Autostakkert, I'm going to be using Registax, and I'm going to be using Photoshop. Now the way I process it is the way I like to do it. Some of the stuff may not be right, but I don't know, but it seems to work for me. And a lot of these programs, they don't have instructions. You just have to play around with it till you get something that works. Or watch a ton of YouTube videos on how to do it. Alright. So PIPP's complete, so we'll just close it down, and then what I'll do is I'll go to the folder where the original video is, and it creates a folder wherever you placed wherever your original video file was. So click on the PIPP file, and we'll play the PIPP video. It's a little more stable, but it's still jumpy because the atmosphere, there's no way of really, you could probably go into a video editor and maybe take some of the atmosphere out, but I've never tried that. Alright, so let's close that down. So now we got our PIPP file. So what we'll do now is we'll go into Autostakkert. So now, not Autostakkert. So basically all I do, I just go up to File, open the AVI, and load the PIPP. So normally what I do here, once it opens, it'll have the stabilization anchor. I just leave it where it's sat, where it placed it, and then I just go into Analyze. Now to process the Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars in Autostakkert, they're totally different ways of doing it. So this is just how I process the Moon. To process Jupiter, it would be different. You'd be picking up here. You'd be picking planet instead of surface. I don't play with any other settings in here. The only thing I do is I just go into color and just say auto detect. A lot of times I'll force the bear when I'm using my color camera. So, all right. Oh, all right. So now, most of the times with Autostakkert, you want to pick the AP size here. So you want to make it fairly big. So I usually go around 64 and then just say place grid. So it places the grid. Oh, sorry, clear. What I usually do first is I'll go through and find a clear picture. That one looks good. And then place grid. Now, drizzle, with the drizzle 1.5 and 3.0, how I understand it, is it magnifies your picture, makes your picture a little bit bigger. I'm not going to use the drizzle. So, now, you can pick TIFF, PNG, or FIT. I usually go with TIFF, and I don't worry about the number of frames I stack, I just go by the percentage. I usually go 25, 35, and 50. Sharpened, it kind of does a deconvolution. RGB align I don't need. Save in folders. Save it in whatever folder you want. And just your file name. So basically, once that's done, I just hit stack. And this usually takes a few minutes. Now, this might not be the proper way, but it seems to work fairly well for me. So this will just take a few minutes for it to stack the 10,000 frames. So up there, the frame percentage, so it's stacking right now 25% of the frames, 35%, and 50% of the frames. Should be done in a few minutes. This is usually the longest part of the process, is Autostakkert, stacking all the frames there. Okay, so it's done. Alright, so now what I do, I usually just close down here and open up Registax. So in Registax, now we're going to improve the picture. So do all the extra processing, wavelets, and some other stuff I'll show you here. Alright, so what we do is we'll find where the pictures that Autostakkert are stacked. Into the PIPP folder, and normally don't see a difference between the pictures. So that's what it looks like at 25% stacked. And this is the 50. Normally is 50 is what I go with. I don't know why I put the other two in for the video. I should have left them out. Alright, so that's convolution with 50% of the frames. It doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty good picture, but we can improve it. Alright, so what I normally do here is I'll go into the histogram. Okay, so really there's nothing to do with the histogram, but I'll usually bring this slider over and stretch it, and that just lightens up the picture a little more. Okay, and that's pretty well all I do, because there's no color here. So if there was a color, like say for Jupiter, I'd be using the RGB align and the RGB balance, and probably the gamma. Other than that, I don't use anything more on the right hand side here. So now on the left hand side, I normally, for the moon pictures, I keep it at the initial layer at 1, keep it linear, use the Gaussian, and the first thing I'll do is I'll come over and I'll use the top slider here, and I'll slide it over, and voila, look at that, lots of detail come out. So let's turn that back off. Just right click your mouse button and you get the slider to go back to the left. So here you're not really seeing, well, it's not bad, but you're not really seeing all the other little craterlets that you could be seeing, all the other little craters. So let's do that again. We just bring the slider all the way up, and voila, there you go. Look at that. That turned out quite nice. The only thing with Autostakkert, it had to, like, some of the pictures are moving and everything, so it looks like it just doesn't quite stack all the frames good, so you gotta crop your picture. So, and what we'll do here is we'll do a little bit of a denoise on it. So we'll go for, there's 5, there's 10. You can start seeing the detail. It looks way better. Let's see what 15 does. Yeah, 15's not bad. And 20. I like what 15 looked like. I think that looks better. Okay, so that, yeah, using the Registax improved it vastly, like a lot. That looks really cool. Alright, so now what we'll do is select Do All. Okay, and then save the image. Right, so I'll save it in the same folder. So let's call this save it as a TIFF, and Moon 1 should be good, and just hit save. Okay, so So now that it's saved it, let's go over here to Photoshop. Alright, so I do a little bit of processing in Photoshop. So we go to File, Open, and to 50, Moon 1. There we go. Man, that looks cool. Alright, so first thing I normally do is crop this. There we go, gotta crop a little bit of it off. Alright, so normally the first thing I do inside Photoshop, just go to Image, go to Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and I'll just play with the brightness a little bit, make it a little bit darker. There, a little bit of contrast in there. You just play around it till you like the way it looks. Some people are different than others. Alright, so when you got it, just select OK. And then the next thing I'll do, usually I'll go into Filter and I'll go into Noise and I'll do Despeckle. And that helped out quite a bit. Okay, the next thing I do is go into Filter, go into Sharpen, Shake Reduction. Now this is where you have to play around. So you usually put the blur trace down in around 20. Smoothing usually up and around 50 to 60. And you can see that smooth it right out. And then the artifact suppression in around 50. That usually works quite well, but let's cancel that. You can play around with that. Sometimes it takes a while to get it to look half decent. Alright, so the other thing I normally do, I go into Camera Raw filter. Let's back that down. And you can play with the exposure. And contrast. Whatever you like for the highlights. Shadows. The lights. And the clarity. Of course, saturation's not going to do anything because it's monochrome. just click OK at the bottom. And there we go. Alright, so then normally I just go to File, Export, and Export As. Save it as PNG. Hit Export. Desktop. Name it to whatever you want. Hit Save. There we go. Alright, so what I'll show you is the very first picture that came out of Autostakkert. I'll show you a couple of pictures here. So that's how the picture looked when it came out of Autostakkert. And that's after the wavelets in Registax. Same with this one. And then the final picture that I edited in Photoshop. Might be able to try to not do so much. I think that's probably the exposure, a little too much white there, but overall looks pretty good. And that's basically how I edit my moon videos. Thanks for watching. Ace out.